Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's wonderful to be here again. I've played on this series off and on for literally decades. The last time I played here was actually 14 years ago, so I'm incredibly thrilled to be back. And I am now going to be the person to once again make sure that my phone is on mute. And I'm going to tune my bass. And then my show today is 6 short selections. I'm going to get my bass in tune and get situated, and then I'm going to talk just a little while about the first 4 things I'm playing and how I put the program together here. So thank you, Kathy. Thank you, AJ, in the recording. Thank you, this series, and thank all of you for being here. As I tell you about the first 2/3 of my show here today, ladies and gentlemen. A few months ago, when Kathy and I booked this date, I came up with this incredibly cool idea of what I was going to play today, which was going to include also 6 pieces and 5 world premieres that I had never touched, including 4 pieces that I wrote during COVID and 1 piece that I wrote specifically, originally, for today that was incredibly difficult in a format I had never written before, which is a neo-baroque toccata. Unfortunately, about June 7th, 8th, 9th, I started dealing with 3 little sets of health problems. Not going to be TMI and give you any graphic details, but all 3 of those would have been upsetting on their own and certainly unpleasant. But added together, they were a little bit debilitating, or perhaps a lot debilitating to my practice regimen. So for 3 weeks while I was battling to get now hopefully 90% through all of those things, again, don't worry, nothing contagious, I was very despondently disgusted that my whole idea of the program I had ready today, which I had even bought a new shirt with the theme, and all brand new music for you today, had to be scuttled because there was no way to get that music in my hands, losing almost maybe 95% of my practice time between June the 8th-ish and this past Monday. Well, I played 2 other solo shows for Austin Symphony Outreach yesterday, and including this one, so that's 3 solo shows I was militantly committed that I was not going to reschedule, and that I was not going to cancel. So last Monday night, I literally had a sort of come to Jesus moment once I realized I had some semblance of my chops back. I'm like, well, I can't play this show anymore. What am I going to play? And so I came up with a new idea. And the title of the shtick or the theme of my 6 pieces today didn't quite make it in the program. I think that's my fault. I didn't email it to her. Is called Bach to the Beginning, making the horrible pun on back to the beginning. What you're going to hear in these first 4 pieces, ladies and gentlemen, the first 2 pieces I'm going to play are the first 2 bass pieces I ever wrote 40 years ago this summer. I wrote them kind of as a complaint. When I was a teenager, I also studied the violin fairly seriously, and as a sort of complaint that no great composers wrote any bass music. So I decided to steal some. So when I was all of 17 and a half years old, for several years, I started a series of 12 pieces based on themes from romantic violin concertos. And I'll be starting my show here in just a moment with two of those today. And then the next two pieces I'm going to play for the middle of my show here today, I am going to play two movements from the very first Bach suite I ever learned. So there comes our shtick, Bach to the beginning. My program I had originally planned that I had to scuttle again with entirely new music. I do hope to play sometime in the first quarter of calendar year 2027. And I'm still very despondent that I had to postpone that by, again, losing 90% of my practice time for 2.5 weeks. But it still means I didn't have to cancel or postpone anything, and I had two shows to play yesterday for those kind of people at the Querency retirement community, and I have a show to play for you today. So a few changes. Again, this is not Kathy or the wonderful people in the office. This is me having to still be in sort of a horrific stress place until Monday night, knowing exactly what I'm going to play today. My first four pieces, my first 2/3 of my show, are a little bit different than what you have in your program. First two pieces I'm going to play, indeed, are Rhapsodic Variations on the theme of Lalo, and then Rhapsodic Variations on the theme of Sibelius. Again, those being the very first two bass pieces I ever wrote 40 years ago. You'll notice that the opus numbers on them say opus 2A and opus 2B. And then I'm going to play two movements of Bach. One is different than you've got in your program. I'm going to play the snare band and the prelude from the second Bach cello suite transcribed for bass, not the snare band and the Alamon. That is what the first 2/3 of my show is here today, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm so blessed that you're here. I am deeply thankful to God and to everything that got my body reconfigured enough to at least play this show. Again, it's not the show I planned, but I'm still glad to be here with you at all. So once again, let's start literally from the beginning. Here are Rhapsodic Variations on the theme of Lalo and Rhapsodic Variations on the theme of Sibelius, the very first two bass pieces I ever wrote. it is in here, but sometimes air conditioning can be destructive when you're playing off pages. So, take two. Let's start that again. Thank you. Alrighty, so indeed, moving right along to my Bach. Middle third of my show. Again, to repeat what I said earlier, it's not exactly what you have in your program. I'm going to be playing the Sarabande in the prelude from the bass transcription by Henry Sterling of the second Bach cello suite, not the Sarabande and the Allemande. So here's the Sarabande. And now to clarify one more time, this is the prelude from the second Bach suite for unaccompanied, transcribed for bass by Henry Sterling. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate whoever turned off the air blowing on me so it wouldn't move my pages, but you didn't have to sort of send me to Hades as the other option. But that's the first time I've played that movement and think I've lost 2 pounds. But anyway, so that's 2/3 of my show. I'm going to rest my arm a second and tell you about the last third of my show and the last 2 things I'm playing. This next piece is sort of indicative to something without giving you a 45-minute lecture, because there's no way to alienate an audience, or anyone for that matter, faster than to make them late for lunch. There is a cliche that composers sit in what I metaphorically call an ivory tower in this little room and scribble, 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 and it's all sort of done somewhere enclosed and you cut off the world or what have you. Being a gentleman with a plethora of eccentricities, I don't really write like that at all. There are times, of course, where I'm glad to have an 8 or 9 hour session writing or copying in my house on sketches I've written, especially when I'm putting together big things like the 6 big pieces I'm writing now for the next year and a half, 4 concertos and a bunch of choral things and another big choral thing. But I write everywhere. I write in the bathtub. I write at Walmart. I write in bars. I write at casinos. I have sketchbooks every single place I ever go. And one reason I do that is because the other thing that this next piece I'm going to play for you, which actually is a premiere, is that, yes, I write about most quote-unquote normal composery things, death and love and heartbreak and lots of spiritual, religious music, etc., etc., etc. But I also write an enormous amount of music about things that can be considered mundane. Mundane to the point of silly. And I very much love the irony of writing a piece that perhaps its genesis was from somewhere ridiculous, but that the music is very legit, or at least I hope so. That the music is not meant to be a joke at all. 2 quick examples of both of those things where I get inspired to write something out of nowhere because of something that happens, or someone's hat, or what somebody said, or something I see in all my travels out windows or whatever. On this idea of irony, of strange derivations, but not unserious music. A Croatian gentleman, friend of mine, who is a bassist and conductor overseas, several years ago commissioned me to write his entire National Society of Bassists concert. All 30 minutes says, "I love your music, I want 30 minutes of you." It's like, oh, wonderful, thank you. So, even though I have thousands of ideas in my head constantly and in my sketchbooks, I didn't have a hit, I didn't have an idea that was speaking to me yet. So, but the day after, this gentleman and I discussed money and the deal and when he needed the piece done, etc., etc. I went to clean my kitchen. And I opened up a cabinet and I started getting the cleaning products out. And as this happens to me lots, all of a sudden it hit me. Here is his piece. I wrote him a 30-minute sonata about cleaning products. There's a scherzo about bleach. There's sort of this opera aria sort of section where the bass is sort of singing about Ajax, etc., etc., etc. And I made the point because I was not able to go to that premiere, but I got a letter, an email from a gentleman who had been following my music for a long time, who did go to that premiere, and said, you know, when Svetozar got ready to play your piece, I'm like, oh, a sonata about bleach and cleanser. Oh, this must be kind of a joke. Oh, well, that'll be cool, because so much of Mr. Waddle's music is extraordinarily dark. And then he listened to it, he goes, this piece was extraordinarily dark, even though it's about something quote-unquote silly. So I very much want to play with the irony sometimes of doing something like that, and with the idea of all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you are inspired to write a piece not because of something quote unquote usually artistic, like, ooh, look at that sunrise, or ooh, look at the beach, or whatever, that you can say, ooh, look at the Clorox, or, or look at somebody's hat. So why did I feel like it was important to explain that right now? Because, again, as I said earlier, I did not get to do my original plan of 6 world premieres today. But I did have a piece that's not been premiered yet that was not nearly as difficult as those, that on Monday night / early Tuesday morning I was like, yes, I can learn that piece in 3 days. And if you look at your program, ladies and gentlemen, I'm still in the process of writing these 2 sort of sets of 4 pieces that are parallel yet opposite, about one very, very dark version of breakfast, about things a vampire would eat for breakfast, and one very, very lyrically, for lack of a better word, pretty things about breakfast. And so I had made some muffins in March, and I froze some of them. And in May, when I was writing some other music, I unfroze them, and I got ready to eat them, and I was like, muffins I made in March, and I love alliteration. Well, there's a piece here. And so that's why the next thing you're going to hear to begin the conclusion of the last third of my show is literally, as you see in your program, an impression soliloquy for solo bass entitled May Memories of Making Muffins on a March Monday morning. So, we're about to have a piece about muffins. And then, still going back to my theme today of Back to the Beginning, one more solo bass piece based on themes of romantic violin concertos. The last thing I'll play today is Rhapsodic Variations on the theme Wieniawski, which takes as its main theme the main motive from the first movement of the second violin concerto. So I'm so happy you all are here today. I'm so happy I can still not express how deep my disappointment is that I didn't get to do the show I planned, but I'm glad I got to do some show for you where I am still not at 100% of my capabilities yet, and hopefully not make an abject fool out of myself. And so here is the last third of my show here today. This is actually a world premiere, and I'm very proud and happy to say the bio Cassie read at the beginning was a little bit out of date in terms of opus numbers. I reiterate to you again, the first 2 things I played today were opus 2A and 2B. The very last thing I'm going to play is opus 15C. This piece that I finished in May is opus 821. So that bio said I had just gotten to the 1750s. Pretty soon, by September, I will be in the 840s or so. So once again, I'm so blessed by all of you being here. I hope you have a blessed rest of your day. Thank you for spending your noontime 40 minutes-ish with me. And here are my last 2 pieces. Again, one brand new piece about muffins, and then one more of my early violin concerto rhapsodic variation pieces. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Just such a treat to hear you play.
Oh, thank you.
The richness of the tone was just kind of yummy.
Thank you. I agree. I love tone. I love bass tone.
I'll remind y'all that on July the 9th, we'll have Alexander Smith on viola. And then July 23rd, Andre Felipe Palacios on the bass and guitar. August 13th, Jennifer Reese and on flute, and Janine Ellis on piano. So some wonderful concerts coming up. Hope you will come back. And remember, second and fourth Thursdays, we're live in the sanctuary. So let's give Kel another round of applause after this wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here.